Good morning to everybody. I've been talking with some friends lately about things that are going on in the world, and I figured I'd share a few thoughts. You know, a lot of people seem to think that the politics are getting a little out of control. Fair enough, in some places, maybe. A lot of people seem to think that we've kind of lost some moral standards with friendships and in business. And a lot of people are concerned about economics. So there's a lot going on. Let me try to unpack what I think the problem is and maybe address some potential solutions. Okay, so here we go. So I believe, oddly enough, that it comes down to our faith, economics, and not learning from the past. The past isn't always indicative of the future. However, the past often rhymes, as with, it often rhymes, as Mark Twain might say, Samuel Clemens. So I guess we'll start with, let's start at the top. Let's start with the knowledge of good and evil tree and the tree of life. Okay, so we'll start there and then we'll break it down into everything else because you got to start at the foundation, right? Well, when I look at the two trees in the garden, God gave us a choice, right? It was a choice to choose two trees. And God still gives us a choice to accept him or not. At the end of the day, if we look at the universe, we look at this perfect planet where the oxygen level is perfect for us to live, and if it toggles a certain way, we don't breathe. If we look at the protection of our atmosphere, we look at what the moon does to provide certain things. We look at the fact that we're this planet that's spinning around the Earth, spinning around the orbit with the sun. We look at how the Big Bang happened and expands. Like mathematically, it's just not reasonable to not think that there's intelligent design. I have no problem with arguing with atheists about religion and why religious principles aren't good. And I have no problem arguing with people about, and in a cordial conversation, right? Like if we can't talk to people rationally that have different beliefs, we're not going to grow. It kind of goes back to this tree. And you don't have to be a religious person to understand these principles, and you don't have to be somebody who believes in a particular faith. But I do think these principles are legitimate. And they'll build upon them when it comes to how we handle life, how we handle our religious institutions, politics. And I'm going to go into the stuff you're not, I guess, supposed to talk about when you're around friends, right? But we're all friends, so let's have an intelligent conversation, or at least attempt to. Because at the end of the day, I think the concept of Taoism, I know nothing, or Buddhism, I think is a very interesting principle. Socrates believed in the same in the Stoics. Because if we're not learning and growing, we're not expanding. It goes back to the universe. From the Big Bang, the moment that from a lower dimension, the formless broke into the form. If you study somatics and like sand or water with music or vibration moving through it, those vibrations, those same mathematical principles actually move the waters. So it's very interesting how vibrations sound, the break from the formless into the form. The formless is eternal, the form is temporary. I mean, there's some things and principles in science that do align. And let's go back to the original two trees. God gave us a choice because, like any parent, if you force your children to love you, it's not love. That's not unconditional. That's conditional love, right? Well, God has given us this universe and has pretty much live our life however we want. And if you want to call it the universe or whatever, the math is insanely impossible for us to live on a planet that has what it has, for your body to not consciously have an enormous amount of functions occur within it for you to be breathing and watching this video. For us to create these god-awful, technological advances where I can talk to you around the world. I mean, mankind has built in the likeness of image of creation or creator to basically create amazing things. But we've also created things to where we've kind of lost our faith in our foundational principles. So I'll go back to these two trees. Like I said, you don't have to be religious to understand them. But very simply, one is the tree of life and one is the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. To me, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil is ego. Meaning, I know it all. I already know everything. So get away from me. My beliefs and principles are 100% accurate, and this person can't learn. So this is the person, not because they're insecure within. The inbound shift is getting back to something that's bigger with you than them. It's a deeper level of love. The tree of the knowledge of good and evil isn't love. It's lust. I lust you as long as you give me something that satisfies me. It makes everyday life conditional. It's always an if-then statement. If blank happens, I will be happy. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter about money, stuff. We all want to be loved. We all want to be at peace. We all want to have joy, right? But we've replaced the true foundational principle for something that's we created, man-made. It will surely lead to death spiritually, morally, and life, because there's no eternal life if you don't get this now. And eternity is here today, the moment we accept it. When will the day of the kingdom of heaven come? It's lo here, lo there. It's within you. It's in your midst. Just recognize it, right? So when we recognize that, it's an if-then statement. If I get the girlfriend, the boyfriend, the husband, or the wife, I'll be happy. If I lose weight or get in shape, I will be happy. If I make more money, I will be happy. If I get to go on this vacation, I will be happy. When my kids do this, I will be happy. Life's not perfect. We deal with all sorts of crazy circumstances. The universe split itself from a whole into parts so it could experience itself. The infinity circle 8. One side learning more about itself and giving back to the other side, the higher dimension going to the lower dimension. If I look at like John chapter 21, Jesus said there was 153 fish, his last miracle. It's basically Pythagorean theorem. 265 over 153 takes one circle, splits it into two. The Vesica Pisces, the fish shape in between, is the eye of the needle that we talk about in faith. It's less likely for the rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven than it is to fit for the camel, the eye of the needle. If thine eye be single, thy body be full of light. Well, that's the connection between the seen and the unseen. The seen is temporary, the unseen is eternal. It's that higher dimension that sparks the soul, the spirit that's beyond the body and this meat bag that we wear. That's where we can align them here on heaven, right? Well, that one circle split into two. Just very similarly, we split from a higher dimension that's less form and less physical, i.e. heaven, where we're all connected to everything at all times. There is no time. A day is like 1,000 years, right? Well, here we experience time and, it rolls out, right? But like that side, like it really wants to be here because this is where the fun is, right? It's where we get to be individuals and work together and learn to cooperate and grow up and quit being selfish children. We should evolve, right? But if I have to be happy, if I have to have this to be happy, I'm always stuck in some past situation that I was unsatisfied, looking at some future. It's like a horse with blinders on chasing a carrot we'll never reach. When you get those things, it's always going to be the next thing that you need to be happy. I'll get to the other side in a second, but at the end of the day, it's not a place to live. And Adam and Eve didn't even know they were naked because they didn't even recognize those things until they ate from this tree, this tempting fruit, to try to replace God with their own needs. The woman took it. The man could have stood up and said, we're not going to do this. But then he blames her. She blames him. They realize they're naked. And that's when the nakedness of ourselves came into existence. Whether you believe it's a metaphor, I don't care. Whether you believe it's real, I don't care. It's a really interesting foundational principle. But the spirits of this tree are basically anxiety, depression, never satisfied, always needing more, ego. I know it all. So the insecurity I have within myself. Look at the political debates. Are they talking about solutions? No. They're talking about mudslinging this guy and how bad he is, right? Like, is that the kind of leadership we need in the world today? No, we don't need yes men. And these people that are this way, the super ego, the Hasatan, it was not a specific individual. It was the deceiver, the adversary that we all face. When Christ went into the desert, he faced it. He was facing this thing that we all face, and he had to overcome it. But once he overcame that, he became what he was, right? Well, when we face the ego, the tempting fruit, the deception, it's now you're growing and learning every day. You don't want yes men around you that bow to your will like some of these politicians want. No. You want people that are actually going to challenge you. We should do it respectfully. But when you keep learning, you keep growing and evolving. The same things I thought a year ago, 2 years, 10 years ago. If I'm still sticking to those same beliefs, celebrating my sports stories and victories every day, all day, sure, talk about them. But living in that, is that a future life? No, we're stuck in the past. And because we're stuck in the past, we need this thing to happen to feel validated in the future. And we never find satisfaction. That's not the kingdom of heaven. That's not a kingdom of consciousness. It's a kingdom of ego and selfishness where we create wars and children get killed in Gaza on both sides. And we have wars in Ukraine where it's over land. Is this person not more important than those things? Is that what God, a loving father, would expect his children to do in an enlightened state? We have access to more information today on the internet than we've ever had anywhere in the world. And what do we do with it? We're still like in this childlike state. Where's the enlightenment? This leads to anxiety, depression, pride, greed, envy, sloth, laziness, wrath. I mean, we look at the Old Testament, it's basically to show you what not to do. Cheating your family, weird incest stuff. Like, it is a crazy story about cheating our brothers, cheating our sisters, cheating the other guy. We were supposed to learn from that and not repeat it. The good news was to get past. There's 1,000 rules in Judaism, right? It's impossible. You got to wash your hands this way. You got to do this way. But if you're doing it for the approval of other people, when you go give, do you do it to post on social media? Just do it in your heart. Like, that's what we're missing. And if we'll get past that, it's doing it because you love God and you love something within. It's not about the approval of other people, not lust. I don't do something to be good because I lust their approval. If you seek the approval of man or woman, where's your foundation? That's a house built on sand and time. It just doesn't work. Now let's flip, and this tree leads to foundational principles in religion, politics, law. What is the knowledge of good and evil? It's man-made laws, man-made religions, and we stick to some of these laws that don't work anymore because society has evolved. We haven't evolved the stories. Your cell phone. There's no new spirit in the world. We're following these same rules, and we're going to Old Testament beliefs that didn't work then, and we're not growing past it. We're using constitutional laws that we're far evolved beyond that we're not looking at. Thomas Jefferson said, should I expect me to wear the old coat of my barbarous ancestry? No, I don't want to see laws and constitutions change all the time, but we should evolve as the spirit evolves. And to be in the spirit is to accept something bigger than you. All of a sudden, new ideas come that's beyond you. You get put with this right person that's going to teach you something you need to know, but because you don't know it all, you're not ego, you learn and you grow. Like the universe, always expanding, because the universe doesn't expand and it flips back on itself. It devolves and it collapses into a black hole. Everything's aligned. We have this perfect universe. It's like mathematically perfect, but we don't even align with its principles. And we definitely don't honor the books of faith. Because the knowledge of good and evil is man-made laws, man-made religion, all these things, and sticking to what we built. It surely leads to death. Now we go back to the tree of life. Very different. Formless, like that somatical frequency, always evolving, moves in through the mediums of sand or water. You can Google somatics. There's a cool video you can watch on YouTube. It's pretty neat. What moves and it evolves, it's growing, it's enlightening. Every day it's learning because it doesn't know it all. Now it sticks to its core foundational beliefs. Consciousness. I don't treat people as a means to an end. I treat them as a means in themselves. I look at every person on this planet like they're a child of God. They all came from the same universe. We're 99% the same in our DNA, but we fight about the little things that make us different. A kingdom of God is not a kingdom of one religion or one population or where you grow up following rules. It's a kingdom of love. It's a kingdom of consciousness, a kingdom of doing the right thing, not because you're told to. Immanuel Kant's deontological philosophical theory, a set moral standard. I will do no wrong to others. I will defend the weak. I will defend the helpless. I will not be like the church has turned some men into choir boys. It's turned some men into tyrants, like dating men. Men, the choir boy is going to bore the lady, right? But the bad guy, he's a jerk. But what are we supposed to be? We grow up as little boys, ride the white horse in, slay the dragon, take the queen. Man is supposed to be with men, be with women. We've got certain religious beliefs that we don't think it's we think it's good to put literally the same groups that change the dates and the times. If you don't understand what that means in Daniel, we used to have a calendar based on the moon, the Hebrew calendar. I was born on the 14th of Nisan, if you know what that means. But every year it's changing. We don't celebrate our faith on the Sabbath when we should. Sabbath, Friday, Saturday. Instead, we celebrate on Sunday. We've made a lot of changes, these principles that kind of goes against what it says in the book. It says, Jesus said, I should call no other man father. But who do we call father? We believe that we should have these men that aren't with women, and we think it's healthy to put them around children. Psychologists, we think that should be with women and like little boys and little girls and not watched. We wonder why we have these things going on in the church, because we're going against our physiology. Man's supposed to be with woman. A rabbi was supposed to be married. But we make these things just out of common sense. Let's go back to the tree of life. Tree of life. You can eat any tree. God gives you the choice. You can eat this tree, the bad one, the one that leads to everything, death, or the spiritual tree. And it's every day I wake up and breathe and I think, thank you, Father, for allowing me to see, breathe, touch, smell, taste. And if you lose any of those things, you're still grateful, no matter what. Because you know that for me to be breathing in this crazy planet that has a perfect amount of oxygen for me to breathe, it's a mathematical impossibility for me to be here right now and you listening to me. How can we not be grateful? And we should be grateful, no ifs and statements. I'm grateful for whatever it is. Because if you're in a tough moment, that's where you get to play a part of the game. It's free will. Free will is not just choosing the tree. It's, you know what? I want to be in better shape, so I'm going to do the little things every day, consistency and determination to take care of my body. I'm going to eat better. I'm going to meditate. I'm going to pray. I'm going to eat right. That takes care of the body. Takes care of the spirit. Every day I breathe and think, thank you, God. Agape love. I'm unconditionally loved and unconditionally forgiven. Now I have a foundation. That's not I lust you. That's true love without conditions. God, I love you no matter what. Because I know if you put a trial in front of me, that's for me to be a champion. What great hero story is there not things to overcome? What great accomplishment in the world? What's good about getting in shape and everything else if you didn't have to have temptation and not? What's good about making some new business deal or some great opportunity if you didn't have to go through the challenges? We forget our hero stories. The hero's journey, as Joseph Campbell says. Follow your bliss. The cave you fear to enter is where you find the treasure you seek. It's going beyond the hard, going beyond that hard thing and breaking through the wall and creating your own way and being a part of the story, accepting the spirit and being unconditionally loved and forgiven and having that peace within to where I wake up every day grateful no matter what. A challenge comes to me, I'm a dude. I'm gonna get fired up if somebody gives me some problems, but I'll also try to be a little bit more consciously aware, be that person behind myself, the spirit that doesn't just act. It's the lamb sitting on the throne in our temple. It's the lion, the beast, man. I'm strong, beastly man, but with spirit. Women want a man that's spiritual leader of the house, but you know what? If 10 ninjas come in and can whoop that dude's butt, man, he's gonna protect the family. He's not offensive, but you come at his people, man. Don't come at the lion, but under control of the lamb, meaning he's love, he's spirit, he's kindness, and the spiritual fruits, love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, peacefulness, joy, happiness, unconditional joy is unconditional forgiveness. It's not looking at my father and saying, you didn't give me this selfishly. It's just grateful, man. I'm here to learn every day. So if we take those principles into what's going on economically, it goes further. Here's where we go next. We were told in the books of faith, in the Torah, in the Shemitah, and it's just history, right? It's number one, debt-based economic policy doesn't work, and we should not devalue currency. Pay unto Caesar what is Caesar's, right? Well, at the end of the day, when you devalue currency, we look at ancient Rome. Ancient Rome, they basically devalued the currency so they can do expansionary policies, so they could fund their military operations everywhere else. And so they can build god-awful things, steal from the future, rob from Peter, right, pay Paul, right? Well, what ends up happening is they devalue the currency, they create something called bread and circus, which is the people distracted by drugs, sex, rock and roll, by sporting events. They create these massive things to distract the people because they're not educated. And then the people get lazy. And then they're kind of the sheeple, the sheep being led to water by the wolf in sheep's clothing, right? It's not cool. Well, that leads to the fall of ancient Rome. It happened in Nazi Germany. The currency gets devaluated. We have the step being mollified. Hitler shows up. The strong man shows up at the time when the poor are here and the rich are getting rich. They want revolution and anarchy. But what happens always? Anarchy, the guys supporting the good people at the bottom, the rebels, turns to tyranny. And then you have a new anarchy rises and it turns to tyranny. Why? Because we're eating from the wrong tree's fruit. Grow up. At the end of the day, if the tree of life is different, it's love, joy, peace, patience, kindness. I don't need to steal from my neighbor. We can work together. Game theory, Matthew chapter 10. Jesus taught game theory way before it was cool. You got one side of the tree, of this tree, right? You're on my side. You're my friend. You're my supporter. You welcome me into your home. You know what? Harmless as a dove. Cooperative game theory. Basically, 1 + 1 might be more than 2. You put one really good business idea with another, it produces revenue. Simple stuff, right? Now, the other side of the tree, you don't welcome me now. I'll kick off my shoes and leave, man. And you'll miss out. You'll miss out on what we have to bring, right? You don't think kicking me, you don't support me in your country, it's up to you, man. You lose some good dudes and some good ladies that are working to change the world. That's up to you. Your loss. Now, if you want to fight me, you come at my people, good luck with that one. We're pretty darn smart and we're pretty strong big old boys and gals, right? We got pretty strong friends in all sorts of military and different things around the world too. But we don't need to go there. But hey, if you pick me into that corner and it's worth the fight, bring it, big boy. And that's when your heart, sure as a serpent. We don't need to go there though, because if we live on this side of the fence, we just realize it's more effective to work together and not have these political debates where they just sling mud and give us no solutions, and they don't even talk about the real problems. Since COVID, we've created twice the monetary. Ancient China, by the way, same thing. Devalue the currency. We don't learn from the past. Modern monetary theory basically says it doesn't matter. We can print as much as we want, right? That doesn't matter. We can keep loading up, keep printing. They didn't study history, yo. Like, that's just not going to work. When we get back to it, we got to get back to stability. It's going to take some work because you can't just change things overnight. But let's look back in history. Glass-Steagall in 1999, 66 years after it was created, separated retail banking from investment banking, right? So you put your deposits in the bank and they're there. Well, and that was good. But after right after the central bank was created in 1913, you had the Roaring Twenties that came after it because this didn't happen. The separation wasn't there. You have irrational exuberance, no fiscal responsibility. You have a boom period, but then you very quickly have a bust period because it's not sustainable, right? So they realized with Glass-Steagall that we need to separate retail banking from investment banking so people have stability in currency so the purchasing power isn't diluted. So when you go in like today, we keep diluting the dollar, the dirham, the pound, all of it keeps getting diluted because we're living beyond our means today. And what ends up happening is you don't have this. And then the investment bankers, they're not really making returns. They're just moving around paper, man. It just keeps happening. But in 1999, we removed Glass-Steagall as a part of the Clinton administration, a principle that separated them because the investment bankers said, the bankers wanted to get into what the hedge funds were doing. And what happens? We have the dot-com bubble. We have the housing bubble in 08. We've got what ends up happening, like today's everything bubble because the currency has been deflated. And we get back out of working hard, doing the work, the innovation. Like right now, in 2008, post-2008, instead of taking our medicine when we were out of control with our debt, in the dot-com bubble, we had FOMO, fear of missing out, because of the tech stocks. All of a sudden it had a dot-com on it, a company was worth more. All of a sudden you have a CDO and a mortgage-backed security that get bundled in with Billy Bad Credit. Everyone can buy a house and afford it in the States. They package it up into bonds, institutions buy it, and they realize later if it unravels, it blows up. These same things. Blockchain. Oh, let's go after Bitcoin. All of a sudden this thing that's printed out of nothing is going to be worth a fortune. And maybe it has some policies, it does have depleting, it's got issues on the halving and the fees. I won't get into that. But we got out of control with blockchain. We have a bunch of people like Sam Bankman-Fried, CZ, and these guys come in, they scam people, they're breaking laws, and they need to be regulated because right now they're creating securities that are illegal. Securities are really simple. Top line, I got a pooled investment, people expecting return, one group's managing it. A crypto case, they ain't doing that. So we need regulation. There are some things in blockchain that can be done in the legal way. We can do that. We're working on some fun stuff, right? But we need stability, right? That too. We get back to it. What ends up happening now? We've got AI, PE ratios and earnings ratios of companies are out of control, and there's nothing really advanced, no superhuman. It's just algorithms. So we've overvalued stocks like NVIDIA and these others because it's all based on paper. Really simply, your household, right? You've got top line revenue, expenses, and a net. If your household can't figure that one out by making more money, lowering the expense, it ain't going to work. Because you probably can't keep getting unlimited credit cards and being lazy, but that's not how the world works today. The governments, because modern monetary policy theory, believe they can do it. And it just is going to be, all of a sudden, we're going to change the laws of physics. Well, what ends up happening, very simply, that happens in the household. Like when I did a lot of commercial real estate back in the States, and I do it here, very simply, I have the revenues, expenses, the net. On a VC or P deal, like a early stage company, I've got the revenue, I've got the expenses, I've got the net. And then you have some function of earnings, net earnings, or EBITDA, or you've got net cash flows. There's usually something called the cap rate or some kind of function off of those that determines the value. So, when you don't have nets, like, what's something worth, right? And debt sets are bad in the States. They were over 100% debt to GDP ratio. For every dollar out in stimulus dollars, a net loss. Look at Japan. They're lost decades. They're at 200%. This doesn't work, guys. It's ignorance. But ignorance is bliss. If the people don't become educated, we're not going to change it. We're listening to old men mudslinging, coming up with real ideas. So let's go back to it. Robert Murray Hay came up with something called, after the 30s, called base economic theory. You've got to manufacture. You've got to create innovation. You got to have something you may create, tourism, whatever it is, and outside money comes in. That creates base income jobs, and those are a multiplier effect for non-base jobs, right? Then let's go back to it. What ends up happening is we have these bubbles. I kind of mentioned some of them, but it keeps happening over and over again. Why? Because the stocks, the CEOs of companies and public stocks today, it's not like that simple equation. They're paid not on revenue and how much the household and the family's earning. They're based on stock value, the price, not the revenue, right? It's just, we've just created this because of this system in 1999 that the money got diluted. The banks today have most of them have less than 1% of your cash deposits. I've talked about it before. That's why SPV Bank went down. Well, as we start to get further into the conversation, this is just not a foundation, because if 50% of corporate debt in the big public companies in the States is not going to innovation and job growth, you're not creating new earnings. You're just pumping up a stock. So what ends up happening since 2009, you have QE 1, 2, and 3. So basically lots of money printed in the Fed. And then from there, you have basically underneath it, you've got zero interest rates. So companies, bonds, debts, could become zombie companies because they got 0% interest. They don't have to make a lot of cash. So you could have real estate deals that don't make any sense in any other environment that get done. So we have a lot of that stuff that's been built for a long time, and now we go to tightening. So after we created double the money supply during COVID, we had to do tightening to stop inflation. But we've tightened so fast that we're putting pressure on those bonds and those zombie companies and public stocks. We're putting pressure on the household, and people don't buy a house, unfortunately, for what it's worth. They buy it for the payment they can afford. So now the payment goes up, so they can't keep affording to go buy those big houses. Now the interest rates have gone up. Secondarily, you've got adjustable rate mortgages, which is kind of a scary thing. They can't make the payment on what they've got. Their credit card debt goes, they can't pay all their bills. It's a trickle-down system. So the systems are cracking underneath. So eventually the Fed has to flip to easing, but they got to walk the tightrope. And you can't be mad at the Fed. If COVID didn't happen and we didn't put the money in, the system's going to blow up. So the lifestyle today, we got to work with each other, right? But at the end of the day, they're walking a tightrope. And then walking that tightrope, if they don't get it perfectly done, they let down the easing too fast, it's going to be really hard to get back to that level of interest rates ever again. But the problem is that we raised harder and faster than we've ever raised before, right? So it's like Newton's law. For every action, there's an equal but opposite reaction, right? So if you raise harder and faster, inflation could be worse this next go around. And it may be really hard to raise rates again because we will have made even more debt. It just becomes unsustainable. So let's go back to how the currency is created. So basically, you've got the Treasury in the United States, for example, that they create bonds. Bonds are loans. Those loans are backed by what? Not gold, not physical stuff, but by your birth certificate. You've got an CUSIP and an ISIP number on your bond slave. So whether you created the debt now or your kids 20 years from now, they're going to be born into it. And debt that's not sustainable. That credit card payment we keep paying over and over again. Somebody pays the piper at some point or the system collapses. So as we think about that, these bonds are created during COVID. Now they're not even having to go a lot of the time to congressional approval. They just keep creating more and more debt. Like, it's weird. We're in a tightening cycle, but at the same time, we're printing a lot of currency, which is very different. Hence the reason why it's just the system's getting historically to its end. Can't be mad about it, is what it is. And the people that say the dollar's going away, it's better than a lot of the other situations. U.S. bonds are still a better rate of return, and the system's so integrated with the dollar, it's not going away tomorrow. The BRICS is an interesting idea. It's just not practical. You're not going to get all these different nations to come together and believe on one central monetary policy. They may trade in physical goods or a different way, but it's not the end game. The end game is we need to work together. We don't need to hate the Fed or fight the Fed. We need to recognize we're in the system today. But we do need to start thinking about creating a better future, and we don't do that until we understand it, right? Jerome Powell's got a tough thing he's facing right now. He's got to figure out, how do I walk this tightrope? And the problem is, if he lets go too soon, he's got issues. He's got political pressure coming soon because all these things are cracking the system. It's going to fix it. And they flip to easing. It may be hard to stop inflation. So we have some things coming in the future that are tough. But when we face tough things, like I talked about, that's our opportunity to win. That's our opportunity to lead. We're working to create some solutions to these problems, and you'll see them days soon. But what is the inbound shift? That's our marketing arm. Inbound shift is a concept of, we do something great in the world and the people to come to us. But it's also flowing from within, that tree of life, right? Always growing, always expanding, always getting better partners, new ideas, innovation, because we've got to create. We were built in the likeness of image God to create, not be in the welfare state. So two sides, you've got anarchy and tyranny. The left goes and creates the welfare state so people get lazy, but they become controlled and they print more currency. The other side used to be fiscally responsible. The right used to be, their job was to govern and make sure that we weren't getting fiscally out of control. And their other job was to make sure we followed the books of faith. Where's the book of faith on the right now? Sorry, it's not there. I don't care what the evangelicals say. This is not what we believe in. We've had in the last couple weeks, during the week of Declaration of Independence Day, we basically, when we left the United States underneath the rule of a tyrant and a king, we said no man is above the law. And I don't care if you support the left and the right, you set legal precedent that the guy on the left that's currently in office and the next person on the left can do it to you. So it's just losing all of our principles of what the founding fathers believed in, as well as faith. Not the path. So if we get back to these foundational principles, Thomas Jefferson said it best. Should I wear the same and best, Barbarious coat? At the end of the day, you're using your flip phone, you're using your Zach Morris brick. No, you get the 2.0 version, right? So we need new spirit, new manna. We've got to be with the Holy Spirit. How do you get with the Holy Spirit? You go to the tree of life, man. New ideas come. When you're every day grateful, you got a good attitude. You're attracted to new people. People think you got a pleasing personality. They'll give you a chance to talk about your ideas. You'll learn from them. We're growing. And every single person on the planet's a child of God or they wouldn't be here. So I don't care what you claim to be your religion. And don't go out and force your religion on somebody. That's not evangelism. It's growing and shining, reaching with love, not lust, where I need you to make me happy, or I need some chick or some dude to make me happy, or I need some deal to make me happy. It's always being joyful, always being grateful, always being the strong one that can stand up against tough situations, temptations, to do the wrong thing, continue to do the right. And if people come at you, man, protect your house, man. But at the end of the day, the lion bows to the lamb sits on the throne in our temple. We become spiritual leaders. The men become men again, strong men, leaders, Renaissance men, fighters. But the spiritual leader of the home that are lovers, baby. Two sides. We're part spirit and we're part animal. Man should be with woman. But at the end of the day, it puts us in a situation where we now have a chance to look at what's going on and evaluate it. Don't go tell everybody what you're doing, but let's see what you can do to make some change. As JFK said, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. Ask not what Americans do for you. Ask what we can do for the world. Go in to heed the command of Isaiah to set the oppressed free, let the captives free. Who's going to stand up and do it? It's not going to be some tyrant. It's not going to be some dude that's going to lose because he's always right and he's defending mistakes he made 20 years ago and he's fighting to defend that he's right and right. You get a dude just say, hey man, I messed up on that one. Hey, I wasn't right. Maybe this wasn't the right decision. Or let's get together and see how we can all get the smartest people in the room, whiteboard it, but discernment. Being honest, you listen to all these different people, discern what is the truth, and leadership. We need real leadership again today. And one of the things I will tell you is I live in a country right now where all nations come together in peace. They're all working together. You don't have political divides. It's a stable environment. It's just a good place to do some business. And because of that, why do you think Dubai's growing so fast? That man's a man of faith. I don't care what you think about which faith he believes in. He is Abrahamic, and he is our brother. And that man right now that leads this country, Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid, God bless the dude, has created a nation of peace and has set a torch and says that, we welcome your immigrants. But you know what? We do intelligent immigration. We're going to vet you. You got to have a job. You got to do this, but you can come here and make it happen. That goes back to the founding principles and a 5,000-year leap that the United States made. But do we welcome in the immigrants anymore? No, the right, who's supposed to be the faithful leaders. You will go listen to what Reagan said. He was all about immigration. We don't have the Republican Party of Reagan anymore. We don't have the spirit of the Democratic Party of JFK anymore. We don't have the spiritual truths of leaders like Martin Luther King anymore. But it's still dying. It's dormant inside of us. It's just waiting to come out. That lion wants to roar, but he wants to be a lover too, baby. I mean, I'll love you. I'll hug you. But I prefer that. But if you fight me, come at me, baby. I got smart people around me. I'm not looking for a fight, but you know what? Sometimes we got to fight. And when we've lost leadership in the world like this, when we're not fiscally responsible, and now what's happened? Because this debt-based monetary policy, because we don't have this stuff in the house. The church, separation of church and state, I'll just get real simple with you. Johnson Amendment said, and it goes back to founding fathers' beliefs, you've got a 501c3 and you preach politics in your church, you should lose your 501c. You pay taxes like the rest of us, bro. Charge tickets to your movie theater. And you want to tell widows that to give them the last coin when you're living in some fancy place and that money's not going back to feed the homeless and the poor and you live in these big buildings? Is that what the guy you support Jesus would be about? Ask yourself, or would it be going and helping the poor? Would it be taking that money and not spending it on big buildings and jets and flying around the world, but actually going and helping the homeless? Making sure people have friendship, psychological support, food, water, healthcare. Not going to nonprofits that top the money, half the money comes off the top. We can do better. But at the end of the day, those faiths and those principles they're teaching are good. But we've got to also challenge ourselves to actually make an impact in the world. Not just get up and preach it, go do it. Be the hands and feet of Christ. That's what we're missing right now. And we got to get back to those principles. We got to make an impact. It's not preaching a sermon so people can hear you and like the religious people, the Pharisees that you preach against, to be seen in public. Why don't you go take some money and go help somebody that's not your faith and help some kids in Gaza and families that are being hurt on both sides of the equation? Why don't we get to these politicians and say, no more killing, no more fights? Why don't the tough guys and the tough people that have men of faith to say, you will not kill these children. I don't care if they're Christian, Jew, Muslim, it doesn't matter. You will not kill these women. We're going to stand up and stop it. We actually go to foundational principles of faith. And you know what? It shouldn't be taught. The schools in the states and everything else, they shouldn't be teaching religion. We're supposed to have separation of church and state under God. Constitution, Declaration of Independence always tells under God. But because you give people choice. God gave his choice in the Garden of Eden. You don't force religion. Nobody wants your religion if you force it on. That's a dictator. That's a tyrant. That's satanic. No, you give them a choice. But when they see your change in your life, they see that you reach with love, you open the door for them to ask you, well, why? That's evangelism. Go change the world. Go do good. Go help people. Go innovate. Go create amazing stuff. Don't take 50% of your company's debt and use it towards just stock buybacks. Go innovate. Go create new jobs, new growth. Get the smartest people in the room. But if we do that and we grow up and become men again, men, stand up. Some of the stuff that's going on isn't acceptable. And women, use your power. Don't dominate a man. Dominate him with your beauty, your good looks, your wisdom, your intelligence, your beauty. You know, I get blown away when I look at some of these movements where we don't have pronouns. It's pretty simple what you're born into and what you are by your parts. I think it's pretty darn sad that we got boys in sports and colleges and universities around the world that are now competing against little girls that work their tough life off of. That's not right. Second, those same people shouldn't be able to go to women's bathrooms. It's not cool, man. That's not good. I had a stepdaughter I used to take care of, and I take care of a lot of my friends' kids. I don't want those little girls put in that situation. It's not fair to them. Men are bigger and stronger, and it's just not right. But women are brilliant. We got some brilliant women that are leaders on the team, and the women on our team, they don't believe in women's rights and this Me Too stuff. You know what they say? No, that makes me less than you. I want to go shine and be a leader, baby. Don't put me in a bucket. I'm a woman. I'm a powerful person. My friends that are black or different nations, they don't like Black Lives Matter that just go create political divides. I'm not a black man. I'm a brilliant man and child of God. And I go shine. Don't put me in a bucket because I'm black. Come on, y'all. We got past this racism in the 60s, and we brought it back after 9/11. We're all people, man. That 1% that makes this difference, what we should celebrate. We should learn from our brothers and sisters. The golden rule, do unto others as you want to be done unto you. Come on with it. But how about the platinum rule? Let's go a step further. I got to get to know my neighbor and what they actually, their beliefs, their morals, what they believe, and get to know them. That getting outside of my ego. And when I get to know them, I can serve them. And when we can make peace, bridges over these wars, we don't have to fight anymore. Sure, we might have to have some fights, but we really don't have to if we'll just go back to the tree of life. It's eternal. You know, the scene is temporary, man. These broken systems, they will collapse. We'll have new leaders come on board. The old people will fall away. But our group, Gen X, it's our time to lead. We were supposed to be the longest generation, but guess what? The boomers are aging. If we don't start having intelligent integration in the States, all the debt, and Social Security, and all these systems that nobody's talking about, not the real problems, they don't swing mud. If we don't create intelligent solutions to that, guess what? This country collapses. UK's got an aging baby population. You know what? The young and smart are coming here. Why? They've been given an opportunity to. They've been given a chance. If we give people a chance from different nations, we have intelligent immigration, you start creating growth, real GDP growth, not the recessionary GDP growth that we've had going back to really since 2008, and it started getting worse. Like, we've been in a recession, but we just printed it. And why did the Magnificent Seven do so well? Well, as a function of an ETF or an index fund that buys the whole market, like the S&P 500, for example, more money flows to the biggest market caps. So if more money flows to you and you get a higher credit rating, you can go with more debt to do stock buybacks. And more money flows, you can go do more of it. So they keep growing and growing and growing and growing, and you throw in some AI, some fiscal responsibility in the politicians. And guess what? You start incentivizing CEOs to do stock buybacks and not to innovate. Now all of a sudden that base economic theory is not happening. We're not building manufacturing innovation. These are all history, study, become a nerd. Get in the gym and work out. Be your best today. I know it's a lot of principles, but if we go back to faith, and don't count on the school, do not ask the schools to teach Christianity, because that's not fair to the Muslims, it's not fair to everybody else. God gave us choice. So we should force our beliefs to not follow what God says and gives an example of? Come on, y'all. Well, when we get back to that, and we get back to these foundational principles, In your home, you don't want to teach them the books of faith. You choose your faith. You teach your kids your way. Don't let the school teach their pronouns. You teach it yourself. And the people that have other beliefs, the gay, lesbian community, you know what? Let's not judge them. Just like the adulteress. He who's without sin, you cast the first stone. So if you prove you're without sin and you've never sinned in your life according to the books of faith, and sin, all it is missing the mark. We're missing the mark by not following the books of faith. Would Jesus have, outcasted the lesbian, the gay person? No, he'd have loved them. It'd been like, it's a tough life. It's just not rational that you expect that you're going to have it easy in the way we live society. But hey, we'll still love you, man. I'll still be your buddy. I'll hug one out. I'm not an insecure dude. I know my manhood. I don't have a problem giving you a hug because people judge what they're insecure about within. The people that are really against gay rights, they're questioning. I won't really go there, but it's kind of like, it's like Texas. A guy with an overly big truck. Overcompensation. It just is what it is. We can laugh and joke about it, but this is not a joking time in history. Be a part of the solution, not the problem, and you can do anything. As I told my kids, if you believe in yourself, work hard and smart, and trust God. Do your best every day. Get up and be grateful every day. Say, God, I know I'm unconditionally loved and unconditionally forgiven. That's agape love. Now I can pass that to filial love with brother and sisterly, meaning I actually love you. I actually care about you. Even if you can't give me anything in return, you're not just a means to an end. I love you without conditions. Now, does it mean I forgive you because it's for me if you do something wrong, but it doesn't mean I need to reconcile. I love you. It doesn't mean I want to hang out with you because you're not cool to me. Going back to Matthew 10, all that kind of stuff in game theory. But I don't get haunted by it. And I actually love sincerely for people without conditions. Somebody I don't even know, I go help. Not to be seen. Where's the value in that? Even the Pharisees and the religious people do that. But I do it because I love God, man. And he gives me this life and he lets me breathe and he gives me like children I love and miss. But we got to stand up for him, And I mean this from the bottom of my heart. We can't keep living this way. We got to forgive people, not for them, but for us, to make us strong again. Men, we got to fight and stand up. It hurts me. I cry to see what's going on in these fights, and I'm embarrassed by my country. And I'm an American, and I love my country. But I see what's happening, and it makes me want to cry. My grandfather's a politician, and he taught me so much, and I'm sorry, I just get emotional because it's not what we believed in. I see what's happening in Gaza on both sides, and it makes me cry, but it makes me angry. And I try to control it, and I do my best every day to meditate and be with God and say, God, forgive them, not what they know, not what they do. But I'm doing my best to do something about it, and I ask you to too. We can't keep fighting each other politically. We can't keep hurting our neighbor just because he has a different skin color, a different belief, or has a different, but what he likes, girls or boys. We can't. Love everybody, man. Be the shining light on the city that Ronald Reagan talked about in his going away speech. Go into all nations and fulfill the commands of Isaiah, because somebody's got to do it. Step up and be the difference. Don't be a part of the problem, be a part of the solution, and don't talk about problems unless you're working on solutions. Don't just complain to complain, because then you're taken from the wrong tree. And to all the people that think religion is crazy, believe in the universe or something, because you wouldn't be breathing today if something magical wasn't happening. You look at the sunsets, whether you call it God or it's the art. You look at the stars, you look at a baby's eyes, and you see that love. You look at an elderly person that's gotten past their ego, and you see that love in them. You see it in an animal. How do we miss the beauty? Why do we not fight for it anymore? Why do we want to stick to our echo chambers and political parties and not care about other people? I drowned as a kid. I died. And I experienced the side of heaven that I just never understood when I came back, why people didn't love each other and what it was like that. But heaven can be here. When you choose the tree of life, you accept God's love, and you're grateful no matter what. I just showed you. I can still get emotional. I'm a dude. I'm a human. I'm an animal. I'm a beast. But when I always remember and come back to that gratefulness every day, and it's like working out. You don't get strong by tearing down the muscle one time and working out once a month. You do it every day. You eat right every day. You do the little things. But when you get into that gratitude, it starts spinning. you start coming up with ideas, you start getting people in your camp, in your boat, that's when we can win the wars, right? But not the wars because of your ego, because you just want to do good and you don't need everybody to know about it. Don't get up and preach because you need to be seen. Do it because you genuinely care about people, right? And I know this is insanely long, and I'm sorry for going on. I felt emotional with some people the last few weeks that are scared. I felt emotional with people who are Muslims, Jews, atheists, Hindus, Buddhists, and they all want to hear the same thing. But to all my Christian brothers and sisters out there, all my Muslim brothers and sisters out there, and all my Jewish brothers and sisters out there, we all come from the same Abrahamic faith. And everybody came from the same original, whatever you want to call it, how we got here. But you know what? We're all in it together. And the moment we realize that that person that looks different from me, that believes differently, is me, meaning I am a spirit. I'm not just an animal. When I see God's eyes in the person that may even be stuck in the mask of the ego, I don't take that mask off by being in my ego. I take it off by shining. I don't take it off by telling them what to do and by dominating them and forcing them, not giving them choice. I just shine. And when I shine so much, other people want to get in that light, baby. So be part of the love. Accept the unconditional God, agape love within. Become that filial love in the world that doesn't, I lust you, man, or I need something to be satisfied, or the if-then statement, if I need this to be happy, be joyful and grateful. Don't treat people, you can treat people as a means. We all have to do trade and commerce, but a means in themselves, not just a deal. Put people above money. Put faith above unfaith. And do your best every day. Believe in yourself, work hard and smart, and trust God. Because when you let God handle the results, a superpower comes in, a power that creates nations and universes. That's what you got to believe in. So God bless everybody. Sorry for talking so much. And I'm sorry for crying and being a big nerd. I'm a big nerd, and I like to laugh, and I like to joke and make fun of myself. Because if you can't laugh at yourself before you laugh at others, I'm a massive nerd. I'm a klutz. My mom calls me a bull in the china closet. But I do try to do my best every day to get better and learn. And I encourage you to sing. God bless everybody. Talk soon. Mwah.